Hello and welcome to Weird Christianity. We're three friends, and yes, today we are again three.
Woo-woo.
And a very interesting katsu chicken poke bowl from M&S. Other foods from other shops are also good, but this one looks extremely delicious at lunchtime. Anyway, I digress. Today, just first and foremost, we are going to talk about Song of Solomon. So just take what you want out of that. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm today with Chris.
Hello.
Hello, Chris. And Becky.
Hello.
And I'm Jeremy, for those who didn't recognize me and my French accent.
It's rather unrecognisable, actually.
I know. It's just like, Who's that foreigner then? Yeah.
We're hitting all the diversity, aren't we? Yeah.
Today, we are going to talk about three facts. We bring three friends, three facts, and we have a little bit of a banter about it. And today, with no further ado, Becky is going to start us off. Becky.
My fact is that the early church never called themselves Christians. It was a term given to them by the people of Antioch about 10 to 15 years after the crucifixion.
Yeah,
Okay.
What's your question?
So mine was going to be, right, 10 to 15 years after. So what were they called beforehand? Just people, do you think? Saints.
Whoa.
Why are we called, well, I
I got. Did they have halos?
Yeah. Well,
It's a question, isn't it?
I mean, we've all seen actual pictures, haven't we? In all the churches, they all did, didn't they? They all had those halos. So actually, we cannot.
You can't.
Has to be.
But I believe that the term saint that is used in that context before 10 after Christ, 10, 15 after Christ, means separated for God rather than something that we means now as a special person with special power. It's just, I'm sure at some point during the centuries, at some point it was just, now we are like, oh, what's your superpower? If you were to be a superhero, what would be your superpower? At some point it was like, if you were to be a saint, what would be your superpower? Because they have flipping superpowers.
Yeah, I mean, see our other podcast for that as well, where we talk about power of levitation.
Levitation, yeah.
That's still mine,
Flipping, flying.
Yeah.
There is one who can make blue flames. Saint Elmo. Yeah, Elmo, yes. Not the one that you think about.
I'm really a saint. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Not that Elmo. No.
Okay.
Saint Elmo was like, this is still actually the saint of sailors. He's pretty badass. Yeah, he's just like...
Okay, fair
I
enough.
think he was tied up to a mast at some point. That is the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Just some of these saints did was just absolutely incredible.
So that is a differentiation of meanings between the saint that was being called Christians, but also and then after that, it changed, it evolved to be a specific type of Christian that have done specific things. But before that, everybody's a saint, and actually it's mentioned in the Bible at some point. It says we are all saints. It's only in Acts at some point that they are started to be called Christian, and we know that before that they were not called Christian.
Yeah, so they reckon that so there's like a little debate amongst historians that say that the term Christian was used because Antioch was quite like a collection of different people.
Okay.
So it's real like a hub of different cultures and things, and they needed something to label them because they weren't Jewish, they weren't Gentile, they were like a new separate thing.
Yeah.
And then there were also some historians say that it was used like a derogatory thing.
Yeah.
So they might be going, oh, like you Christian or whatever, just for like a derogatory purposes. So it's interesting, how that sort of evolved, and actually they still didn't call themselves Christians until quite late on. It was a term that was like introduced to them and actually given to them rather than it wasn't something they gave themselves. It was like a label that was put on them.
Well, it wasn't really, was it, till the 4th century that, when the Emperor Constantine became Christian, that he then made it kind of the overall belief and kind of started to obviously stop the persecution of the church. That probably a lot of those things changed. They could actually come out and not be persecuted after that. So it's not surprising then, because you're absolutely right. You had Jewish and then you had Gentile, which was quite a, correct me if I'm wrong, quite a derogatory term. It was just if you're Gentile, it was kind of no, you were cut off from God. No, you didn't, you had no way of being invited into a relationship with God at all. You weren't set apart. So I guess they were kind of also, well, we need another term because Gentile isn't really a great term, we're referred to as Christians, which has that like link to Jesus being the Christ. It kind of makes sense.
Well, in 1015, also you have to understand that there were a lot of groups, different sects, different subgroup of Jews that believe different things about, big messiahs and stuff like that. And Christianity that we know now is the one that lasted and lasted and lasted. All the others just kind of died down. But there are some understanding that, some people believe also in a Messiah, but it wasn't Jesus or anything like that. So you had to group. So they were actually called Jews. They were Jews, by all intents and purposes. And then they evolved because they also included the non-Jews into their fold.
Yeah.
So they had to find a name for it.
Yeah, which makes sense. A very inclusive way. So something that was originally potentially
quite rude.
Yeah, to then become an inclusive term. That's
it's a really interesting thing. Like, I always think, how would I have felt if that was my label? Like, because that's like a new thing, isn't it? Like, now we kind of embrace it and say, like, I'm a Christian, I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like back then, it wasn't something that they necessarily chose. It was something that was put on them. And like, how must that have made them feel? Like, I can't imagine how like being given a term that you didn't necessarily ask for would have made you feel.
I guess it kind of goes back to like a bit of a like anarchistic rebellion nature. It's like, call me what you want. Okay, fine. That's who I am. You've used it as a derogatory term, but actually I'm going to accept that and just take that on. I just think there are so many people out there like back then who are just like, cool, you've used this as a term of like putting me down, but I'm going to embrace this as actually, cool, yeah, I am who I am. And I just think that's an amazing kind of like sticking it to the person thing of like, wow. Yeah, stick it to the man.
But what I found is that I went on a little kind of rabbit hole, and then I just kind of look at, Christian is a name actually. So Christian is a classic gender neutral name of Latin, Greek, and English origins, meaning follower of Christ. So I just kind of thought, are there any famous atheists called Christian or a derivative of Christian?
That's where your brain went. Can I find anything?
Can I find someone, just like normative nominism, just like...
And Dr. Christian Smith.
Well, there is Greta Christina, who is one of the most... on YouTube, she has got 5 million followers for being an atheist. So I just kind of love the fact that she is a very strong atheist, yet she's called follower of Christ.
I mean,
It's not nominative determinism, is it?
It's not nominative, non-determinism.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gone completely the other way.
It's just like, well, I'm called Christian. I will prove that I am not.
Yeah. It's like almost, oh my goodness, what an extent to go to, I guess.
Oh, man, I don't think she just kind of thought, and it's not only her name, it's her surname. It's just like, she could change it by default. I'm sure there is some law that would make her change it. But no, she keeps it, and surely she knows what it means.
Yeah.
But no.
Who knows?
That is
But
great.
like, are there any other names out there that were used to like be derogatory terms that eventually became kind of like okay? I can't.
Well, I found out that Jonah, which is a name in the Bible, Jonah and the big fish, swallowed by the big fish, not the whale.
See our other podcast.
Yes, our other podcast. But Jonah became a derogatory term in as if you were in on the boat. Oh, you're such a Jonah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. because you didn't want Jonahs on boats because they were cursed.
He's got that bad a rap. It's like, no Jonas.
No Jonah.
But he saved the whole ship anyway. I'm just.
I mean,
by being thrown overboard.
Oh,
Yeah.
Remember that bit anyway.
Cool.
And so my fact was that Christian wasn't a term that was used by the early church, and it was given to them by people of Antioch.
Well, thank you. Well, today I will be very, very un-British to just kind of change the thing, because usually I'm very polite and I say, Chris, you're next. No, I'll be next.
Go on, you be next.
Yeah, be next.
What's your fact, Jeremy?
What's my fact? My fact is today that the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden fruit, was an apple or a fig or pomegranate or a banana or a citron or...
Okay. So in normal iconography, it is an apple. So
well, hang on. Yes, until a certain point.
Really?
before that, it's depicted in some other things. On the Sistine Chapel, it is not an apple.
Okay, what's it in the Sistine Chapel? Do we know?
It's a fig.
Fig. Okay.
Fig. Yeah. So the apple things. Let's get it out of the way straight away.
Yeah.
Vulgate is the Latin translation of the Bible. It's been used quite a lot by the Catholic Church, and you have to understand that knowledge of good and evil. Evil in Latin is malus, malin. It's just and there is a declination how you use the word in different contexts, whether it's a verb, an adjective, or a noun. And one of the declination have exactly the same declination as apple, mali. Therefore, it was the fruit of good and apple.
Okay. Right.
So it became by mistaking a translation, by mistaking it an ending, then it became an apple. That's why we believe it's an apple. But it was in the Bible. The Bible doesn't clarify what is the fruit. It's just going to say it's the fruit of good and evil. But people have tried to find out what it was, and they just they have different things. Apple is an easy one to dismiss because it's based on a mistake, but nonetheless, it's often depicted in pictures, and it's accepted probably by quite a lot of historical people to just say, yep, it's an apple. We'll accept it as an apple. The Adam's apple that men have because it's more proponent is the apple, the piece of apple that's stuck in our throat when we ate the forbidden fruit. So that's where it comes from, the Adam's apple. That we have the little kind of cartilage that goes up and down when we talk. Yeah. The other fruits, there is the coco de mer, the coconut of the sea that comes from the Seychelles Islands.
Yeah.
And then it just goes to other islands without the husk, and it looks like the bottom part of a female.
Oh, great.
So it looks like a female bottom has just arrived on the sea, on a seabed. It's just so it's got a specific legend, you can imagine.
Yeah. So it's a coconut that's fallen out of a tree on one island, fallen into the sea, and then got taken out, and then travel to another island.
Yeah, so it just falls into the sea and just go to the bottom because it's very heavy. Then through putrefaction and the gas that it just untusk. The husk just comes up, and the inside is the flesh comes out, and just But the thing is, where it ends up, there is no tree.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the time it arrives on that island, it's pretty dead, so it's not going to become another tree either.
I imagine you wouldn't want to eat it.
At that point, I don't think anyone was eating it. No,
Okay.
No. But legend appeared. But that is one of my favorite ones. Bananas is another one that is
Banana the herb.
So so
not because banana's a herb, isn't it? Not a fruit.
yeah, I've got to accept that today.
Sorry, we did a bit of background research.
Background research with Chris. So I used to work as a botanist. So it pains me very much to accept that this guy is right in correcting me that banana is not a grass but a herb.
Did you know that banana trees can move? They walk. Did you know that?
What?
Did you not know that?
Walking banana trees?
Yeah, so banana trees move up to 0.5 meter a year.
Hang on.
So they have to space them when they're planting banana trees in plantations. They have to space them out because they can move.
So if you put a Fitbit on a banana tree, it will just count the number of steps it's done.
Walking across the room, yeah.
Whoa, hang on.
That does sound forbidden to me. If it was a fruit,
that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Sorry, forbidden herb, not forbidden fruit.
Forbidden herb. Well, actually, it's the banana.
Yeah.
Is either a berry or a fruit.
Well, yeah.
So it's just kind of like grapes. So it is very interesting, isn't it? It's just so. But another thing that I didn't know, which I've learned, which is wheat.
Yeah.
Is technically not a seed. It's a berry. Blow your mind.
Wow.
Blows your mind. It's just I was looking into it, the more, it's just having a background in both.
So that could be a forbidden fruit then.
So that was considered to be a forbidden fruit as well. Yeah. Wheat was forbidden to be a forbidden fruit because it's considered to be a berry, and it was one of those things. I guess has got something to do with civilization and industrialization and things like that eventually. But
so were there any other fruit that were considered? So obviously fig was
so the
one
fig, fig. Fig is a representation of the of female. So I think that is pretty against female. It's just like let's make sure very anti-female.
Anti-feminine stuff.
It's just like. Hang on, theologians that are trying.
When did they?
It's just like okay. So that was pretty anti-female, but that was again, but also because, as you pointed out earlier on, before the recording of this podcast, it was one of the first things they used. The leaves they used to hide themselves.
Yeah.
So it's just like I think people don't understand the concept of. People can walk like banana trees, apparently. Away from where they are. It's just like when my child does something I forbidden them not to do, they don't stay there. What I mean? Just like they tend to walk away. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went away from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then went to another tree, which happened to be a fig tree. You know what I mean? That could have happened.
Just putting it out there,
fig tree. Grapes, making wine, and that is reference to Noah getting drunk.
And so that may be where the link is there as well. Okay, and why alcohol's kind of has this.
It's such an ironic thing, isn't it? Because Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine.
I've kind of wish I invited him to my wedding. They would have saved on a lot of just on water instead. And just be like, cool.
Jesus is here. We're just going to turn the water into wine.
So now this one is one of my favorite because it's so out there. So in France, in 13th century fresco, in an abbey, there is Adam and Eve that are represented next to the tree of knowledge, good and evil. And it's a flipping mushroom. Magic mushroom made it.
Wow.
Well, that's definitely forbidden.
So hold on, are they saying that this mushroom contains the knowledge of good and evil? Is that? So
no.
if we had it, that it would.
I think
That's
some
an interesting sentiment, isn't it?
So Terence McKenna, who's quite who studied this quite probably a bit too much in depth, that's mine. Just proposed that the forbidden fruit was a reference to psychotropic. So just like this idea that you would have new ways of looking at life, and just kind of that idea of just kind of almost psychedelic way of just kind of and actually throughout the years the eras has been used in order to evolve and develop the brain. So basically the brain that we have in from Terence McKenna is the fact that we may have eaten some magic mushroom at some point. So it's a bag thing.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not sure about it.
I guess,
Well, anyway, that was my fact. And it could also have been a pomegranate. Anyway, quite a lot of stuff. So the fruit of my fact is that the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden fruit, may have been an apple, a banana, a wheat, a pomegranate, a fig, a grape, a flipping mushroom, and anything in between. Chris, with no further ado.
Oh yeah, so we did say that we get onto Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. So staying on the forbidden nature, my fact is that in in what we call the canon, which is the order of the Bible, Song of Solomon's at one point was considered to not be put in there.
So keeping it PG for us.
Okay.
Can you explain for our listeners?
Okay.
Who may never have read the Song of Solomon by fear or because they never opened the Bible or whatever, it's just like, what is it? What is it about?
It is a collection of love poems and is characterized by its celebration of love, sensuality, and the beauty of nature.
Whoa, you managed to not use
sex. At all.
At all. You didn't use the word sex at all.
No. I just did. Yeah.
What?
So the book is written as a dialogue between two lovers, typically identified as a woman and a man. It vividly describes their longing for each other, their admiration for each other's physical beauty, and their expression of love and desire. So it obviously I imagine probably from our very Puritan era was considered a bit raunchy, a bit risque. So,
hang on. At some point, he talks about tween fawn.
Yeah. It does. So, if you'd like to expand on that,
Tween fawn.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It talks about rest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like the idea of rest
being like twin fawns.
Yeah, and I think it was not in a kind of breastfeeding type of way either.
No. So again, there's a lot of controversy, potential controversy there, and there was disagreements and arguments over whether it was to be put in the Bible or not, because actually it doesn't overtly talk about a relationship between God and his people. So the idea is that to interpret it is to be very allegorical. Did I say that right?
Yeah, there you did.
Yes. I can speak my own language.
It's a French person.
I know, right? Thank you. Yeah, that's very good. So yes, it's an allegorical kind of interpretation of this represents God, or with a New Testament perspective, Jesus's desire for his church, and we are his church, and that kind of relationship there.
I think it's the very picture of an allegory in an allegory. So there are a lot of allegories in it. This idea of comparing breast, or just kind of not mentioning breast, but just kind of comparing them to fawn and what that means. Gentle creatures that fill one with a desire to hold. That was the idea of the fawn. That was how the symbology of a fawn. But it's also the representative of the relationship that God wants to have, not a sexual relationship, not a sensual relationship, but there is that idea of all-encompassing love, everything, which is very important. And to this day, there are a lot of people who equate our relationship that we have with God and God with us as almost a marriage, a covenant that we have with marriage. So
what's interesting, you mentioned covenant, because there is this Rabbi Akiva. Hopefully, I've said that right. You know how bad I am with.
I cannot correct that.
No,
yeah.
He was apparently a highly influential sage during the rabbinic era, and he played a crucial role in advocating for its inclusion. He passionately argued the Song of Songs was not only sacred, but the most sacred, comparing it to the Holy of Holies in the temple. I mean, that's quite a big argument to make. And he apparently was so pivotal that it was eventually accepted into Jewish canon, and therefore our canon as well. So he was like, no, this is interesting. What picking up what you were saying, Jeremy, about how it being that covenant relationship between, representing that between us and God. That rabbi was just like, no, this is such an amazing picture. We can't take this out of our scriptures because it is such an amazing description of it. And that's why it's still there today, despite its controversy.
I mean, what I love about the Song of Solomon is that they managed to incorporate the milkman.
I don't think it's the milkman that we're kind of thinking of, the man that just drives around in a little...
And I think so. I actually believe this very British things was happening.
How does he describe the milkman? What was it he says about, like...
So the milkman, a milkman is a representation, or the epitome, if we want to have big words that I don't know the meaning of, of an immature young man drifting aimlessly through life.
Yeah, sorry, milkman.
And you do still exist in the modern world. In fact, you're making a comeback. Milkmen are making a comeback these days.
Yeah.
I used to be a milkman, but not like that.
No.
I was
not drifting through life
really hard.
I was an immature young man at the time.
Oh, okay. But you weren't a milkman.
But I wasn't drifting.
And no one would have dared call me a milkman.
When it says I was probably a milkman closer to what the milkman means in this context, which is someone who milks and is of gender male. So in that instance, I was a milkman, as I've milked many animals before, for the right purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Of getting milk out of them.
Possibly one of the weirder books in the Bible.
It is. It absolutely is. It's one of the ones that a friend of mine. You know how you have like different, like, I find the Bible really hard to read, and I don't know how to get into it. Like, I find it really.
Did you recommend it?
I may have. I just said, well, actually, It mentions breasts in there, and it's in the Bible, so you can't be wrong.
If you were 13 at the time, yes, I totally get it. But otherwise, it's a bit like introducing the internet for the wrong reason.
I know.
Like,
did you know? Yeah, there's porn.
You find internet quite difficult. Yeah. Oh well, do you know what? Well, shall I introduce it to you through?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
But, did it help?
Well, he became a Christian, so I'm kind of,
His Bible only has one book.
Yeah. He took all the rest out. He was like, I believe firmly in this.
Talking about Bibles that have been taken apart.
Yeah.
Franklin, the one of the American presidents, decided that the way the Bible was structured was not good enough for him. So he restructured the entire Bible.
Okay.
Which in some parts makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But he decided to take out the resurrection of Christ, which I'm like, that's
like the key point.
Yeah, one of the key points for the Christian.
Isn't it cool? It says without the resurrection,
Yeah.
The whole thing means nothing. No.
I mean, it's probably it's just a bit difficult, isn't it? Just get rid of it, chuck it over my shoulder.
Yeah, for American listeners, if you you can go and see the Franklin Bible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think you can turn it.
Where is it?
In America.
Okay.
I'm assuming. I hear about this this thing called the Smithsonian. I have no idea what that means.
So the Smithsonian is a big museum where they just kind of keep a lot of stuff. If you hear key typing very frantically, it's Becky trying to find out where the Franklin Bible is.
Yeah.
Though you could do the Google search yourself if you wanted to. But you know what? To make it easier for you listeners, we are going to tell you where it is. Yeah. We're not going to buy your tickets, however.
It's in the Benjamin Franklin Museum.
What the best way to find the Benjamin Franklin Bible, and where is the Benjamin? Where is the Benjamin Franklin Museum?
I don't know. Now I'm going to type in that question.
We'll fill time whilst we're finding that. So but
do you think Benjamin Franklin really loved the Song of Solomon?
Wow, I mean, it sounds like.
Do you think he became a Christian? Was he your friend?
Yeah, he was actually. I'm a time traveler. Actually, but it's just like it's interesting, isn't it? Like how you'd think the Bible would steer away from what we'd think kind of really difficult subjects to talk about, but actually, the Bible's full of a plethora of stuff that some of it we're like, oh, it's kind of heavy stuff. I don't really know if I'm okay with it being in there, but no, it's like it is in there for us to read.
There are a lot of things that are very accessible.
Yeah.
And I think, but what is interesting also with the Song of Solomon is that it reminds us that you have to look at it with a lens of when it was written.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise we don't understand those things. Your pomegranate, I mean, it doesn't grow in the UK, and we are recording this in the UK.
Yeah.
We might make it grow in the UK, but in specific situation. But it's more of a Middle East thing. But the pomegranate means that it's a metaphor for the richness of the promised land of Israel. So there is a meaning behind what he's using. Anyway, Becky.
The Benjamin Franklin Museum is in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
There we go.
Philadelphia, people. If you want to go and see the Franklin Bible, the mashed up Bible that Franklin put together, then it's there.
Yeah, in Philadelphia. So that was my fact, that there was a time where the Song of Solomon, or the Song of Songs, the book, was considered to not be included in the canon, but eventually was.
Well, thank you, Chris. That is fantastic. And that is the end of today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do not hesitate to contact us via our different social and Instagram and Twitter and X, whatever handles. So you can find us on Weird Xenity Pod on Twitter/X, or formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Or Weird Christianity on Instagram. And Weird Christianity Pod on Facebook.
There we go.
You can find out more about the YMCA Exeter, who is sponsoring this podcast. And thank you very much. Boom, boom, boom. YMCA Exeter, fantastic organization. All three of us work for it, and we are all the better for it. And you can find out more about YMCA Exeter at ymcaexeter.org.uk. Goodbye.
Goodbye.